let's jump into the '08 controversy. Take this opportunity to kind of walk through those details for all the people that, saw it from afar.
So
we knew we were going to get fired eventually.
Yeah.
It was going to happen.
Like leading up to '08.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We knew that the head leadership at the time was not a big fan of the show.
And to clarify, this time you're owned by the Synod.
We're under the auspices of the Missouri Synod, working for KFUO, which is the oldest full-time Christian radio station in the country, owned and operated by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And so we knew that the president at the time, Gerald Kiesink, was not a fan. Now, he didn't listen, but we were, let's Yankee Stadium. The whole prayer controversy where a district president prayed with Oprah and Hindus and all that kind of stuff. So obviously we were opposed to that, interfaith prayer services. But we get a memo, you can't talk about Yankee Stadium. Well, we're like, okay, we'll figure, there's a spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. Yeah. So we just do Albert Mohler and interfaith prayer services. Didn't say anything about Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Elijah and the prophets of Baal. Was he praying with these? We came up with ideas, to talk about it without mentioning Yankee Stadium. So we were at odds with the leadership at the time on that issue right away in 2001 when President Kiesink's elected. And then we had, whether it's worship, communion practice, role of women in the church. We weren't in line. We weren't in lockstep with the current leadership on issues like that. So the general manager at KFUO called us in, and I was trying to think this morning when it happened. The 2007 LCMS convention was going to happen. Now, the Board for Communication Services that oversaw KFUO, we had a confessional Lutheran majority on that board up until 2007. And he brought us in, I don't remember how many months in advance for 2000. He goes, look, there's a good chance that there's not going to be a confession. That board's going to change. And when it do, they're going to get rid of issues, et cetera. So we were tipped off in advance. The irony of the whole thing.
And we asked him at the time, can we go independent? Will you just let us take it?
So
go independent. He's like, no.
So a couple years earlier, I tried to establish a recognized service organization of the LCMS called Lutheran Public Radio. And all these ideas that we have now with the 24/7 sacred music, all these things. And I remember making the pitch at the International Center, the headquarters of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And the chairman loved it. And Chuck Mansky, the sainted Chuck Mansky of Concordia Irvine, said, this sounds like a great idea. It's like, well, we're going to get RSO status, right? And I was like, well, do you just want me way outside? Because I'm thinking they're going to vote yes, and this is a slam dunk. And the executive director at times said, no, you just go back to KFUO. Didn't hear anything. And then we get this letter in the mail. We've declined RSO status for Lutheran Public Radio. So getting back to all this could have been avoided because we could have just like, hey, we'll just go independent.
Yep.
But the general manager at the time says that's not an option. They're definitely not. They didn't give you back then. They're definitely not going to get you RSO status now
with the new board.
And he said something to the effect of, after this convention, you might have a year. We'll see.
Yeah, and so the amazing thing was the 2007 convention happened. New members on the Board for Communication Services, which oversaw KFUO. But this is July of 2007. We made it all the way to Holy Week, March of 2008. And then we were called, we got a memo, Wilken and Schwarz, come to the International Center, the headquarters, for a meeting. We asked what's this meeting about? Like, nobody make eye contact or like, oh, this could be interesting.
So we had three possibilities. We always, you always have to have contingencies. So we thought, one, we're being fired. Two, we're going to get a real talking to. Okay. Which is not unusual. We got a lot of talking to. And, what was the third one we thought might be a possibility? Oh, one of our bosses is getting fired. You never know. You never know. We thought maybe one of our bosses is getting fired, and we had a lot of bosses.
Too many.
Yeah. And we thought those are 3 possibilities. Most likely we are going to be fired. So the minute we walked in, we saw the head of HR and our main boss sitting in there.
Once we saw the head of HR, we knew what was going to happen. The crazy thing about it, we knew it was going to happen. Wilken, because we talked about this in advance, brought a tape recorder.
Yeah.
The whole thing is recorded illegally. But we still have the recording of our firing, which is never aired anywhere.
Do you want to air that right now?
Right. Do you still have the recording?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So he went to the bathroom, right? Did you just turn it on right away? I can't remember.
I had it on when I walked in the building.
Yeah. So the whole thing's recorded to this day. Maybe someday when we're in the church triumphant, somebody will listen to it. So when you see the gal that's been head of HR for LCMS for decades sitting there, you pretty much know what's going to happen. And so the head of the board for communication service, like, we're canceling issues, etc.
He wouldn't say you're fired.
Yeah.
He said, we are canceling issues, etc.
Do we have jobs? No.
Yeah.
Are we being fired? No. We're canceling issues, etc.
Therefore, your positions are terminated. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Your positions are terminated.
Yeah.
And I said, David.
This is David Strand, who was head of the board of communication service at the time. Great man.
Wonderful, kind person. And he was at the time a fellow parishioner. We were at St. Paul de Pere. He was my elder, in fact.
Oh, wow.
And I said, David, I'm not going to punch you. Just tell us what's happening here. And he, at that point, he was really, he had a hard time doing this. I felt bad for him because he didn't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And he also didn't know what was coming because we said nothing to anybody else about this at the time. And he didn't know what was coming. Our intermediate boss certainly didn't know what was coming. And so he handed it over to Barb, who is the HR person.
Barb Bryant. Right.
And she very formally, she does this all the time. She has to do this terrible job of firing people. And she pushes the files over to us that had our severance package in it. And
now, leading up to this, I had to convince Wilken that this was going to be the playbook. Because I remember telling Todd, like, they're going to try to say we can't say anything negative about the LCMS. And Todd was naive at the time, think, they wouldn't do that.
I didn't think there'd be an NDA in there.
Yeah. And I was like, no.
Gag clause.
Gag clause. And it's like, no, it's going to happen. And we've got to be prepared to just say no to their severance packages.
She slid it across, and I said, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, if there's a gag clause in here, I'm not inclined to accept this. And she had never.
Yeah, there's nothing in the HR playbook for not even opening them, not even discussing them. And then she proceeds to say, these are like really, really good severance packages.
And they were.
Schwarz and Pastor
They
Wilken.
were very good.
Yeah, we didn't know that at the time, though, because we never opened them. And we just refused to open them and literally left them on the table. And when we're leaving, it's like, take your severances packages with you. No, because if there's anything that's taking away our First Amendment rights, it's a no deal. I don't care how much money you got.
But we knew at the time that there was a possibility of coming back independently. And if we signed the NDA, we would always be beholden to Thompson Coburn, which was at the time was the law firm that represented the LCMS. And just coincidentally, the legal representation for the LCMS from Thompson Coburn was David Strand's wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we knew that if we ever said anything publicly, the LCMS could come after us for it, which is why we said we can't do it.
If you would have accepted that, would you be here today?
No, I don't think so. And well, first of all, what kind of credibility do we have?
Yeah.
We're telling people to be bold confessors of the faith, and then, well, we're not going to be. That's hypocrisy, right? And as a journalist, I'm not going to sell my First Amendment rights to anybody.
Yeah. So I completely understand the reason for NDAs in the regular world, but this was not a position that we were willing to take. So, we immediately, after we left there, and I said to my boss out in the lobby of the International Center, I said, you're going to be taking phone calls about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we'll probably take a few.
So the problem in the leadership at the time, they didn't understand the technology.
Mm.
They didn't understand that. They thought we were just a daytime, AM, drive time, 5,000 watt radio talk show.
And we asked them when they fired us, we said, we're supposed to tape an Easter Sunday night show, nationally syndicated show with Dr. Jeff Gibbs
On the resurrection according to Matthew's gospel.
Can we at least go back and get that thing in the can for them?
We won't say anything about our cancer. We want to get the gospel out one last time. Not even say it's our last show. We promise.
Let's go back.
Let's talk about the resurrection according to Matthew. We don't even tell anybody we got canceled, but it was scheduled at later date. No, we had to turn in our keys.
You're done today.
We could not go back to our offices, go back, we weren't even allowed clean our desks out. I was back in Wilken, what did you steal something? Did you download porn? I mean, what? He's probably thinking the same thing of me. Because how could it be this severe?
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't even let us go back on this 100-some stations, XM Sirius satellite radio.
They got dead air.
To talk about the resurrection.
They got dead air.
They literally sent nothing and paid for it and paid for the airtime. But getting back, they didn't understand the technology, and they since they didn't listen to the show, and who would want to listen to theology, right? Mm-hmm.
That was their mentality, right?
Yeah, that was the mentality. So we would get these top 100 download reports from KFUO, and we were never the lowest we'd get out of the top. And there's all kinds of other programs at KFUO. The lowest we'd ever be is 95 out of the 100 were our episodes. Mm. And there was 1 month where all 100 episodes were ours. Everything being KFUO.
Wow.
So I'd see these downloads and I'd say, man, I hope somebody's dumb enough to cancel this show. Mm-hmm. I was I just hope somebody is dumb enough to do it. Because I knew, you're looking at 300,000 downloads a month. I'm thinking, man, we can turnkey this thing, and go full speed ahead and not be held back by, the synodical bureaucracy or leadership at the time.